Mark asked me to first play the drums for the record as a session drummer, and there was the corona virus in the very beginning of the outbreak. And so the whole city was empty and I was alone here recording drums. And it actually pretty soon started to take more like a band member form, where we started to bounce back ideas and stuff. More and more I realized that I was in a situation of taking care of all kinds of stuff for the record. And also percussion and some West musicians and recording and finally mixing and stuff like that. So it's been great. It's gonna be a great record.
Originally, Jan was just going to play drums as a session player. Jan was very into drumming and recording, and so that's what happened. And Jan did not stop recording until we had the whole record. And then he's like, "How many band have you got?" That's right. Jan has a natural penchant for composition, and so he brought that. Like rhythmically, yes, but also quite a lot of heavy orchestration, timpanis, other sorts of melodic style. Jan's not like other drummers. His sense of musicality goes beyond rhythm. He could hear things in songs that we couldn't hear or we weren't aware of. Some of the changes he made were drastic, but ultimately the song wins.
I'd say the first seeds of us getting together as musical collaborators probably came in 2019. We were on tour for our Waiting for the Endless Dawn album, and we were finishing the tour in Finland. Surprisingly enough to me, I hadn't spoke to Jan for a while, a couple of times on Facebook, but I had a message from him saying, "Do you want to come down the studio? I see you're coming," which is probably the first message I got when we landed, actually, which is really cool, being that we'd had a couple of brief encounters with each other and an occasional talk about audio nerd stuff on Facebook. And then we did end up going down to Moon Unit and hanging out a little bit. It's actually a photo of the four of us before the seed of us being a band was a thing. You know, moving forward, we finished that tour and we went back to Australia, and that was probably in September, and we had a situation where we had all the demos done for the new album, but we didn't really have the means to move forward with it at the time. So we wanted someone European to come in and fill the drum store and just play something a little bit different. And, you know, we came back to Jan, me and Richie, because he's just got such a cool groove and a cool style and good energy, and he's just a down-to-earth good dude. So we contacted him and said, "Would you be interested in doing a session on the record?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, I don't have any touring on right now." And this was just before the lockdowns kicked in. Jan was just on board. He was really into it, had a lot of opinions, a lot of contributions. And, you know, me and Richie had been used to driving the ship a bit at that point, which is perfectly fine. We're a good pair of collaborators, but to have someone else sort of come in and be so verbal about their collaborations was exciting. You know, it was exciting to have someone else excited about what we were doing. He did add so much that we could not have even dreamed someone would add to the songs. He's a percussionist, a composer, and has a kind of a very compositional mind. So the results with Jan were very good. And before you know, we were basically working together as a band.
How I got involved with Eternal was, I think Jan mentioned about it, and then I got a message from Mark, I think 2.5 years ago or something like this, around Christmas time, that this situation might come up, that the Eternal would need a bass player for the next album. 6 months later or something like that, then Mark contacted me again and, "Hey, do you want to play on the album?" and sent me some tracks. I went to Greece, I was sitting by the pool and listening to the tracks, and then I got back home and then I recorded the bass.
So Nick ended up joining because we were short on a bass player, having lost a long-term member. And Nick was available and keen, and his bass playing suits what we do, so it was a...
I mean, obviously Nick's involvement starts in a very similar way, because I met them both in the same way. Yeah, so it was a no-brainer that, you know, Nick's a couple, not far from Jan, and we could kind of have half here and half there. He's a great bass player, and he's very down to earth, he's very calm, he's very funny, very gentle giant. He's the Finn of minimal words, but extremely funny words. He did a great job. So it was a no-brainer. Plus those two had played together for 17 years in Amorphous or something to that degree. So they already knew how to play together. So I mentioned it to Jan. I was in regular contact with Nick anyway. We'd already started jamming a little bit on the side anyway. So to bring him into this made total sense.
I believe we both met them in the Amorphous store in Australia.
I think back in 2013 or something like that when we played. Eternal opened up for Amorphous in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane, I guess. So
After that we met Mark at least in Japan and Mark and Richie in Helsinki a couple of times.
Well, through internet, of course, we were bouncing back ideas with the album and everything, so we stayed in touch quite often ever since. And obviously Mark came here in Helsinki to mix the records. We finally got to meet within the band context. And also Richie came here, so it's been a couple of years now, I guess.
Yeah, it's been a long ride.
Yeah, it's been a long ride.
I first met Jan and Nick was back in 2013. That iteration of the Eternal supported Amorphous on their Australian Circle tour. In fact, met them all that night, and it came back to my house for a barbecue, which was super fun, which led to me going to hang out with them in Japan at Loud Park Festival in 2014. That's probably where I got to know Jan a bit more. We had a good time at the after party of Loud Park, and when you become friends with a Finnish person, I don't know if you know this, if you have many Finnish friends. I have many. Once you become friends with a Finn, you can never get rid of the Finn. It's a beautiful thing. So that's how my initial interaction came with those guys.
Eternal now has a truly international flavour, sort of Nick and Jan bring a very European flavour to the metal.
I think the highlights, of course, is in the way that the challenge for me, like I never done this kind of a session that half of the band is completely on another side of the planet, and it's been working surprisingly well. Like these days, it's been fun experience.
Songwriting via file transfer is interesting. It does mean that there's consideration behind the quality of performance before anything's complete. Everyone brings it.
We had a quite nice dinner also after mixing was done.
Oh, we did? Yeah. So that's your highlight?
I guess the highlight was that we could all do the thing together, finalize it.
Obviously.
I think the expectations amongst us now are greater because of the level of professionalism that everyone brings. And just not only in songwriting, but in playing and
It's always challenging to make a challenge.
There's many album guests, some of them with very European names, which I will not even say properly. And one collaborator we had here that we've had for a long time, Emily, has sung on quite a few of our records. Emily came in and did her beautiful backing vocal. She did it here at my studio, Lucidity Sound. Little plug over there. Put her in the booth and off she went, and our voices work beautifully together, so it's always wonderful to have her come in, and she's once again a wonderful personality. We had Tommy J, lovely vocalist of Amorphous. He contributed some growling vocals, which in my opinion he's the best in the business at that. It was a no-brainer to say, hey, do you want to do all that? Because you're amazing. And Yanni, formerly of Swallow the Sun, he actually contributed to vocal production, co-wrote lyrics and melodies for me on the song Death Like Silence. Sammy from Creator, guitarist from Creator, he's playing sitar on the Iconoclast. And Santeri from Amorphous also, I think we're sensing the theme here, keyboard player, he came in and he did some awesome kind of Hammond keyboards on Under the Black, which sounds super cool. They're the first kind of sweeping notes you hear at the start of that song, so that's really cool as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of guests. There's also, we got a Tuvian throat singer, Mr. Albert Puvetsin from a band called Jatka, doing throats and Skinwalker, co-writing with Jani Peuhu here from Finland, and Sami Yliserniä played sitar. And then we have Jovan Nachtvek doing the Indian chanting.
Oh,
yeah.
That's rad.
It's pretty rad, yeah. To mention a few.
Interesting to sit in a studio I'm not familiar with, some adjustment. Yeah, overall great experience. Just as you don't sit in the room with everybody, get everyone's sort of feedback and flavour, the production as a whole at that point, after working separately. So
Yeah, I think it was a great experience mixing the record here in Helsinki at Moon Unit Studios with Mark. So I think it took more or less a month, maybe a little bit less. We mixed it in a family vacation here in Helsinki, and it was good to have Mark here and really get on a mixing phase finally, because that's always the fun part, making records. And it was a very good experience. I really like that, and hopefully we'll get to do that again anytime soon.
So, mixing process. The hands-on element of the mixing was done by Jan and myself. We were predominantly at the helm, and of course that's challenging when you're in an environment that's not your usual listening space. So I did find it challenging to adjust to the space, although I was familiar with much of the equipment. So the experience was very, very good. So, moving from that sort of working remotely to working face to face to get those, nut out those things within a certain time period. I mean, we had like 4 weeks. It was great that there was push and pull, and I think that made a better result. If there wasn't push and pull, everyone wouldn't be as equally as passionate about the project. For many years, it was me making a lot of the primary musical decisions or production decisions, and I think that can, in a long-term project, that can make that a little bit one-directional, not one direction the band. So to have like 4 people kind of openly putting their opinions in at that final stage is just I think it just adds a dimension that maybe, some of the records maybe don't have. So the mixing process was very successful, and I look forward to making more music and mixing more music with this line.
Yeah, I think my favorite ones, I have to pick several because otherwise it's going to be unfair. But Under the Black certainly is one of the highlights. It's got this nice sort of pulsing feel to it. The Iconoclast is also very, very good. I'm really happy with the drums, and the overall groove of that track is actually pretty good. Shattered Remains, this is also a lot of challenge in that song.
Favorite tracks on the record? I really like Under the Black. I can see us opening with that for something different. It could be kind of cool, really like it. It's got some really cool finger picking from Rich. Definitely a good collaboration between us as well. I like Skinwalker, which the main riff is based on a riff from Richie's Drunken Riff tape from some years ago. And somehow I just heard it and I was like, that's a really cool riff. I like that riff. So yeah, that one's really good as well. I think I'd like to say there's no filler and then it's all killer. Abandoned by Hope, once again, is a really long song. I think the whole instrumental section in that in the middle is super cool. Super proud how the whole arrangement, the whole thing came together, because 4 people collaborated in that whole final arrangement and the way the songs all sit together.
I think, they are all smoking hot tracks, but Under the Black was when I was listening to the demos. I think that one was the first one that stuck in my head, and I still think it's one of the strongest tracks, but they are all strong. It's very hard to pick one.
I like the Silent title track, $5. Death Like Silence, purely for its pop sensibility, but also heaviness. Under the Black, they're all good. Death Like Silence was almost an afterthought. We thought, we need another song. It'd be good to have a song where we've all contributed more or less equally to it. So Mark and I put some riffs together here, sent it to Jan, he did some arrangement changes, added some drumming nuances, Nick added his bass, and it turned into something which I think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the future.
Yes.
To take this live and really start to jam on this shit.
Yeah, it feels good, I must say, really good, and hope we get to play live.
When there is and there will be a right time and place to do a tour, I think we are definitely aiming for that. So hopefully that will happen soon as well.
It'd be great to get back to Europe, do a bunch of shows. I'm sure we'll go down well with European audience. It'd be nice to get those guys out here to play some shows in Australia too.
Ultimately, I think the 4 of us would love to play live together. If we could get a tour going for Skinwalker in the second half of next year, I think we'll treat into a really excellent live show, which we have started to plan as well.